Hey everyone, welcome to this week's edition of Wise Women Weekly with Monty and Robin. We are excited to come here. We come every single week to serve the profession of this networking industry every single Thursday, right here at the same place and same time. And we've been having a great time here. We've had so many incredible people. We had Sugar Jones last week, who no matter what, whenever she's on, we just crack up. It's just kind of a fun time for us girls to get together and to share from the softer side. And then previous to that, we've had Kathleen Ronald with Clarinomics, and just Easyosophy with so many amazing things. And so we hope that you guys have been getting a lot of value into what we've been sharing with you, because our heart and our mission and our intention is to be of service to all of you in this networking space. Now, today's show is going to be a little bit shorter than normal, but it's going to be packed with a lot of powerful tips that will be able to help you as you're continuing to either enhance your skills as a professional, or if you're brand new to this space and you want to become a professional networker. We are going to make sure that you get those skill sets, and each week continue to build and build and build upon something that's going to really improve your life and your journey in this networking space. So from my heart to yours here in Columbus, Ohio, I want to say welcome to this week's episode of Wise Women Weekly. Robin, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Monty. And this is a very, very special day because it's Monty's anniversary. So yay! It's a wonderful thing. So we want to give Monty maximum time with her sweetheart today. And we want to talk about something today that is actually a principle about life and a principle about our business. And as Monty said, we get together here to talk about what really works, how to have you thrive in your business of networking. And many of you know that I come to this profession with a background from Stephen Covey and the Covey Leadership Center. And I remember years ago, Stephen talked about the law of the farm. So I want to talk, we want to talk today about, how our business runs in cycles and how it really relates to the law of the farm. And I so vividly remember Stephen standing up in front of the room and talking about the law of the farm and how our social rules and our natural principles are so aligned, although many times we try to beat the system. Does anyone know what I mean? So we try to take the shortcuts. I don't know how if this happened to any of you, but you're in school and the semester is continuing on and on. I hadn't quite done the homework and looking for the the little summary book instead of reading the whole book and cramming the night before the test. So how effective are we? And in reality, we can get by, and I think a lot of us did that. But when you look at nature, can you do that? Can you plant a field? Can you kind of, be lazy during, the spring and have fun during the summer, and then the fall cram and plant and expect to have a great harvest? It doesn't work that way, and neither do relationships work that way. They have a natural cycle to them. So, this is about looking at our business and how can we have a really thriving crop? How can we have a wonderfully successful business by honoring the laws of nature, the principles of how things work? So let's kind of break it down. And Monty, how about if I start with preparing the soil and you go into planting the seeds? How's that?
Sounds good.
Okay, so a 90-day cycle. And if you talk to professionals in our business model, it seems like they all use the 90-day cycle. It's 3 months, and it's something that we can really embrace, and we can do it several times a year, and then we can make adjustments. But this is a business of cycles, and our whole goal is to build a personal momentum and a team momentum to hopefully feed into the company's momentum. And then we got the mojo going on all realms. But the only thing we can truly be responsible for is our own momentum. And we know that we're in the relationship business. So when we look at the law of the farm, before we even plant the seeds, what do we need to do? We need to prepare the soil. We need to make sure that where we're planting the seeds is in fertile ground. So what does that really mean for people? fertile ground. You want to make sure that everything is ready to nurture those seeds that get planted. And this is a relationship business, so we want to nurture the relationships. I was talking to someone just yesterday, and they said, well, how do you come across someone who really needs what we have, but you don't want to be offensive? And I said, it's not about that. It's always about, connecting with people and finding out more about them. Who are they? What's important? If you had a magic wand, what would you like to have even better in your life? And they will actually tell us. So this preparing of the soil is the nurturing of the relationships and really finding people that are ready to germinate. Because, I learned this long ago. Professionals in business, and you've heard me say this many times, by the way, professionals are in the sifting and sorting business. Amateurs try to convince people. And sadly, so many people in our business have been exposed to amateurs that are trying to, convince them, you got to have my product, you got it, this timing, this is so amazing, instead of really stepping back and connecting with the person and finding out what's important for them and seeing if this really is even a potential fit. Is this even a time to take things even further? And it's out of respect of your time and theirs. So it's the good old qualify before we present. So that's the first part of preparing that soil, is nurturing relationships and finding out, is this a seed that wants to get planted in this soil? So, Monty, on to you with the seeds.
Is this a seed that wants to be planted? Well, here's one of the things that I will say about that, Robin, is that's such a huge thing, because so many times, and that was one of the things with me initially. I remember I was sharing my story about how I got started in this profession. I wasn't a seed that wanted to be planted. It wasn't the right time for me, or any of those things. And so when we look at all of the things that people tend to do and going, sometimes too far with it, it's really about making sure that the people are actually ready and want to be sown into that good soil. And so for me, I wasn't one of those initially, but I became that way. And so it's really okay for all of us to understand that, when you're preparing your seeds and you're making sure that you have the right ones, that it's one of those things that you have to nurture. Like Robin was saying, you have to nurture that and you have to care for them. I remember, when you were talking, Robin, about having some seeds before, and I remember as part of the things that you were telling me was that you blessed the seeds and you talked to the seeds, and it wasn't just, okay, I've got these seeds, now I'm going to sow them, and I'm going to plant them, and it was, you went through a preparation, you connected with them, and those were the things that were really, really important. And I you know what, the thing about it is, Robin, I'd never heard anybody say that before. I had never heard anybody understand the importance of caring for the seed. Never before, until you mentioned that. So yeah, so that's where I'll add to that.
Well, thank you. And, we're in the people business, and we want to have people, like Monty said, when she got started, she had lots of people coming to her, because who wouldn't want to have money in their business, But it wasn't the right timing, so being respectful of people and saying, would you be open to hearing about something? And Monty, I know she's open. And I get presented with opportunities several times a week, actually. I always want to be someone who's open, but it doesn't mean that it's time for me to do a new business. It's really about who are these people and how are they operating, because things do operate in cycles and there is a timing and things change. So saying to people, I hear that this timing isn't right for you, Monty. Would it be okay if I stayed in touch over time and got back to you in 6 months or so to see what's going on? What would you say?
I would say absolutely. And that goes along with the story that I was telling you before about the gentleman who shocked me when he called me exactly 12 months. We had never met. We didn't have a relationship, but he kept in touch, and his diligence and his respect of where I was, it made me remember him. And I'll never forget him, because I'll never forget what that meant when he reminded me, and he was able to recall all kinds of things that I didn't even remember, because his intention was to connect, even though I was, wasn't ready at the time, and there were things that I was going through, and I was in another business, and I was busy, and all of those things. I remembered him later. And so, it's one of those things that like you said, is so important to remember when we're cultivating. And I want to go a little bit further into that just for 1 second, because, one of the things that I want to share when you were talking about, caring for the seed, I had never, you did it with respect. And that's important. You did it with honor. You did it with reverence, understanding that it is an honor for someone to say, I would love to join forces with you in a business. It is an, and to treat it with respect and dignity, and not taking it personally, but it just was what it was. The seeds were just that, right? They were seeds. And the outcome of the seeds, it would be what it would be. If it grew to be, a big, beautiful plant, it just did. But the bigger point was the way and your intention with it. Because I talk a lot about energy, and your energy was one that was welcoming. It wasn't forcing. It was one, even in having seeds in your hands, that's simply what it was. And so I love that, and I think that we can take a lot from that. Maybe that's a future book for you, Robin, where we can take a lot and learn from that, on how we care for people, when we're approaching them and talking to them about our business.
Thank you, Monty, for saying that, and it just reminded me, today I got a cold call from someone who was telemarketing, and I have an out-of-town guest, and he heard me on the phone. He says, I've never heard anyone do that so nicely before. And what I learned long ago when I was in the career field is many times the first and only job people can get is actually a telemarketing position. And so I have learned over the years to be really, really nice and really respectful. Now, if someone is not being respectful back, I actually have gone to the Gregory listens to me do this. I say, are you open to a little coaching? Would you like to be more effective? I don't really feel heard. I'll say things like that. But if someone I know isn't a fit, I want to be respectful of their time and mine, because it is about respect. And I'll say, thank you so much for doing what you're doing. I approach that situation in a very different way, and I really appreciate you. And then it's over, and then they know they don't have to overcome objections or whatever. It's just I'm being nice to them, but it's not a fit. And so the same thing in our business. And then when we look at if we're going for a big harvest, and many of us are going for a big harvest in our business. And if you're just getting started and you don't know what that means, it is a numbers game. So we want to find out, if we're just getting started, how many people do I need to be in touch with in order to get the kind of results? Because it is about presenting our products, presenting our opportunity or services, whatever it may be, consistently. And again, it's the consistency. So if we want a whole field of corn, we're not going to plant one seed. We do know that each ear of corn has many seeds, and that's a whole nother piece we'll get to at the end when we go to harvest. But when you're looking at what you want, if you're wanting to create a significant income, a major business, it's going to take numbers and consistency. So when you're planting seeds, I like to share the perspective of 2 a day, 10 in play. If we work 5 days a week and we talk to 2 new people presenting our product, service, and opportunity to a day, then we're going to have a whole pipeline available, and later on our harvest will be great, but we're going to get to learn our numbers by doing that. So we want to be consistent with planting those seeds, and if you're wanting to have a big farm and a big harvest and have truly a life-changing income, it's going to require numbers, and you need to know what your personal numbers are. How many people do you need to talk to for one of them to watch the video, listen to the presentation, show up at an event, whatever your company has available as a tool, and what's the conversion from how many people, watch, listen, attend that turn into either a customer or a business builder with you. So honestly, the most successful people, operate in these cycles, and they consistently plant seeds on a regular basis before they get to that nurturing place. So you want to talk about any more about the seed planting and numbers, Monty?
Yeah, actually I do. I was writing down a couple of notes while you were talking. I don't think you cannot underestimate the power of consistency. I think that's one of the things that is missed so much. And we talk about, one day, you cannot take this business personally. That's why I love Go for No, and I love that book, and I'm so happy they're going to be guests here on Wise Women Weekly. Well, at least I think Andrea is. So I'm really excited about that, and here's why. Because a lot of times people will do something for a time, and if it doesn't yield them the results, instead of looking at it like they're learning and they're gaining a skill set, they become discouraged, and then they want to quit, and then they'll begin to find places to place blame, when the truth of the matter is, a lot of times it really boils down to consistency. I heard someone once say constant exposure leads to constant closure. Now, it's not really, I don't really like the term close per se, but I like the phrase because it really, really, really makes a lot of sense, and so it's like whoever exposes the most, closes the most. And so really, it's really a matter of your habits, and consistency is one of the biggest habits that any networker needs to develop in order to build their business. And so oftentimes, I remember what it was like when I would see people who, might not have had, they might not have been the most articulate people, they might not have even been the brightest people, but they were the most consistent. And that's why they were so successful, because they didn't quit when it got difficult. They did the same thing day in and day out. They were making sure, when you're talking about two a day, 10 in play, Robin, that's so true, because we have to make sure that we are consistently exposing people and new people to our business, and following up and obviously, but you definitely want to have new people, fresh people that you are connecting with. And that's how I like to look at myself, as a professional connector, even more so than a professional networker, because my intention is to build a bridge. My intention is to make a new friend, and hopefully, whether we do business or not, there may be something that we can do together in the future. But I think that that's really, really important, what you said. And then we talked about knowing your numbers. The other thing that I've seen people become discouraged about is if their conversion might not be what they want it to be, or they might have an event and not everybody shows up, or I've been in events before where I've had something like at my home or at somebody else's home and nobody showed up. I did it anyway. As if the people were there. And did it feel good? No. But if I was determined to become a success, I just knew that this was just part of it. It's just part of how it is. Because we're dealing with people. Sometimes things happen. So I won't take any more time on that one, but I just wanted to add that to what you were saying.
No. I love it. We all know what secret meetings are. We've all been to them.
Oh, yeah.
And it's our attitude.
I like how you refer to that.
It's our attitude when we have one of those. What are we going to do about it? What Monty just said is we do the meeting as if there was a whole crowd of people, and maybe there's one person there. You could change one person's life, and that could be the most important thing that ever happens. And in talking about consistency, I've been listening to Darren Hardy, and if you're not a fan of Darren or don't know who he is, I highly recommend. We talked about him earlier on. He wrote, you can go on YouTube and listen to him, Making the Shift, his audio, but he's written a book. He's written several books, but he's the publisher of Success Magazine, and he says that same message, as does Jim Rohn, as does someone else I just listened to the other day, and Stephen Covey would say it. It's the consistent things we do every day. It's the little things we do consistently, and that is the recipe for a champion, no matter what field we're in. It's not the big things. It's the little, and this is where Stephen Covey would talk about habits. It's the things we do when no one's looking. It's those little things we do consistently day after day. Let's say you're wanting to, get in better shape or something, and you know, you really slack off one day, that's okay. But if you're consistently moving your body and eating well, you know, one day here and there isn't going to be a problem. It's what is our regular pattern of doing that. So we got to treat it like a business, and that's where the consistency comes in also, and getting to know your numbers. When we have Andrea on in the Go for No, and you'll realize getting no is a great thing, and it completely changed my paradigm. So let's move on to watering the plants. We want to water those seeds. We've planted at the seeds that were ready and willing, that wanted to germinate. And then we take the time to nurture them. And relationships need nurturing in our business. It's not black and white here. We're dealing with people. We're dealing with social laws. We're dealing with people that have lots of different dimensions of their life. So we want to nurture, and one of the ways we do that is we stay in touch with people. We find ways to connect. And, you know, it used to be there was a lot more, you know, home meetings, hotel meetings, big events, regional events, national events. Most companies do have national events, and a lot of them do have regional, but these days we're using technology so often, and we can use Skype, and we can use Hangouts, and we can use ways to see each other. But being connected and caring about the whole person, not just the person that's producing numbers for your business, but it's the fortune and the friendship are in the follow-up. And years ago, I heard some leaders up on stage, and they said every time you connect with someone, it's like you've got this connection from heart to heart with them, and you're building this rope. And in the early stages, it's a very thin line, but over time, you're continuing to develop that heartstring that becomes this, you know, literally unbreakable tie and connection between you. So being consistently connected with who your team is a really important people, and who your prospects are. And some people say, well, I don't want to be obnoxious. I don't want to be a pest. You know, everyone's busy. You're too busy. I don't want to call you. It's actually professionally persistent. And you know, do ask, be in touch, you know, and I love what Gregory taught me years ago, never end one exposure without setting up the next. So if they, you know, watched, you know, you introduce them to whatever your product or service is, and you say, when in the next day or so are you going to have a chance to look at this 3-minute video? Great. Well, then they say tomorrow afternoon, wonderful. How about if I call you tomorrow night? So you set up the next exposure. And again, it's a respectful thing to do. And you both put it in your calendars, make sure it works, and you do what you say you're going to do. You be in touch. And this will save a lot of phone tag, and it'll make life so much easier if you just embrace this principle of, you know, never end one exposure without setting up the next, and really respecting that relationship by nurturing it and doing what you say you're going to do, and stay in touch. So, Monty, what do you want to say about that?
Well, you know, I love that, Robin, and I think, you know, one of the things that I wrote down, you know, for me, and this might not work for everybody, but for me, you know, I listen very intently when people are speaking to me, and so when I'm doing, you know, form, you know, family, occupation, recreation, message, it's habit, but it's with the intention of getting to know them. And so I never just talk about my business. I never, hey, how you doing? Well, let me tell you what's happening in such and such this week. You know, I want to first make sure that we're having a conversation so that the next time I call, they're not like, oh gosh, here she comes again. You know, and so I'm asking questions. I'm really genuinely building a friendship. And so, you know, not everything has to immediately go, you know, boom, right for your business. So I do agree with you 100%. Be professionally persistent, but make a friend along the way. Get to know them in that process and what you're doing. And so form doesn't just end, in my opinion, with just the first time that you're speaking with the person. You know, it's one of those things where you want to continue to do it over and over again, so that as you are nurturing, they know that you care about them, that you care about their life outside of just the business. We see so many times where people will say, oh, there's just another marketer, or that's just another person that's just trying to get our money, or they're just trying to make a sale. Well, I don't ever have that happen to me. And there's a reason for that. It's because I don't do it with the intention of saying, okay, I've got to close this person. I do it to see if there's a connection, and if I know how their life is going, then I may have something that can be a blessing to them, and then I can have a skill set that I can also help to educate them with and help impart that into their life, so now it becomes more of a service that I am providing. I am being a friend by sharing now with them based upon what I now know about them and that continued friendship that we built upon. And so for me, doing that, I guess I'm almost a professional friend in some of those cases. You understand what I mean by that. It's not that it's with just that intention, but I genuinely, if I have a great opportunity, my genuine desire and intention is, how are you? How's life? How's the job? Are you still happy? And then maybe there's something that I can help you with, and that's how, and it becomes easyosophy. It's not work at that point. It's connection.
Love it. Love it, love it. Well, you said, a few things back, you said something that you anchored in right now, and I know that I've heard before. Many times when people are going for a sale, it's, present, 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 close. And in our business model, it's connect, 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 open. Because what we're doing is we're opening long-term, mutually rewarding relationships. So what Monty was talking about is really, developing that friendship and looking at the different dimensions in life. Because if you know someone's been through something traumatic, you don't want to jump right in and talk about business. You want to, express your condolences if there's been a loss, or, how's your sick dog, or whatever it may be, something that you know is important to them, and people can just kind of go, they care about me, not just a business interaction. So it's really in our profession of networking, it's about opening relationships, not closing a deal, because it's a long-term process. So as we move forward in our 90-day cycles, a lot of people go from event to event in their 90-day cycles, getting your teams together, and we've been nurturing our relationships, whether they're prospect or our team. We want to continue to be in touch on a regular basis. And I, to be respectful with people, I actually ask them, I ask them a few things. I say, are you the kind of person that likes a lot of information or a little? And then I know, because some people want a lot, and if you give them too little, they're not satisfied. And if you give someone too much and they only want a little, that's not respectful either. And say, what's the best way for me to be in touch with you? Are you someone who likes to text? Are you someone who prefers, a phone, or are you an emailer, or are you a Skyper? Are you, what is your favorite mode of communication, and when's the best times to connect? So from that, it just will save so much time if we learn. I know we're going to be having someone on in the near future of how to really grow our businesses with younger people, and they don't email or talk on the phone too much anymore. They're online, they're texting, they just do it differently. So we need to learn how to be respectful and communicate with people in the way they want. Anything you want to say about that?
So true. It was so funny. This happened recently where there was a woman within my organization, and she was really upset because she was an older woman and she had recruited some younger people. And she goes, well, I just don't understand why they won't talk. Maybe it's just me. She was taking it really personally because they said, you know what? I just don't like talking on the phone. Texting is easier and faster. But she was feeling, a sense of insecurity about the fact that it wasn't a good old-fashioned phone call. And I love the way you said that, because it's really true. It's just how some people prefer to communicate. It doesn't mean that it's personal or that they don't desire to speak with you. It's just that this is a technologically advancing society that's going faster than many of us can keep up with. I personally love a good old-fashioned hello, but I can tell you right now, if I were to to call my son, it's what's up, Mom? Can you just send me a text? So it's just a generational thing, I think, a lot of times and sometimes. But I think it's great to be able to ask people that question, and that's something that I'm going to start adopting, because generally I'll pick up the phone, or I'll send a text and say, hey, can you talk right now? Because it's kind of a habit, and that type of thing. But I love that, Robin, the fact, just saying, what, how do you prefer to communicate? Because I don't want, you don't want to step on anybody's toes, but you also want to make sure that you're giving them information in the way that they best receive it. So I love it.
Okay, there we go. So now we've nurtured the soil, prepared the soil by developing those relationships. We found the people that are ready, and we've planted those seeds. We've been nurturing them by connecting with them regularly in the way and fashion that is respectful for their whatever way they want to be communicated with. And now we do that over time, and guess what happens? What happens?
Harvest.
Bring it in, bring it in.
Bring it in.
And it shows up in unique ways. So you want to talk about the harvest a little?
I'll let you start off with that, Robin.
Okay. I love it. I love it. And you know, in life and in business, there's certain principles, but there's something called the processional effect. I'm a student of Buckminster Fuller, and he talks about, you know, you start here with where you're starting, and you're going to here, which is your goal, but typically where you end up is 90 degrees differently. And he calls that the processional effect. Is you want to get in motion going somewhere, but typically you're going to end up in a completely different place that's even better. So when we've taken and honored these principles of the law of the farm, the harvest can be way more than we ever expected, and it may be in a completely different direction, because we talk so often about not judging people. Just because someone has a certain kind of background in XYZ and they talk a lot and they say, I'm going to be your first diamond or whatever that is, what I've learned over time is it's not about what people are saying. It's about what people are doing. And it's not maybe always about who they are, but it may be about who they know. What's that term? Every dud knows a stud. You know, I think it's a little goofy, but you just don't know, and we can't judge. So the harvest many times can come many levels down, and we don't know, so we just kind of got to watch and notice what's going on, because when the harvest is beginning, and this is where treating it like a business and knowing your numbers, every company has back office features. Learn how to read the reports. Treat it like a business. Last night I was looking at my business, and I noticed someone new in my business had started duplicating, and I was actually very surprised, because I had no expectation that this was going to happen. So, you know, I get on the phone and acknowledge and congratulate them, and then take a look at what's next and reach out to that new person. So realizing that the harvest is a very exciting time, and it can be oh so much grander than we ever expected if we followed the laws of the farm.
I love it. I love it, Robin. That's so beautifully. I love the way you said that. And, you know, because to everything there's a season. You know, I'm reaping today things that I sowed even years ago. You know, and so it's really a matter of what we put out. You know, there's a principle. It's a spiritual principle, and it says, give, and it will be given to you. Good measure, it's pressed down, shaken together, and running over. You'll get what you give, and when you give with the intention of serving, when you give with the intention of helping and changing somebody's life, you know, it's not really about us at the time. You know, our responsibility is to give out of the abundance of a pure heart, out of the abundance of wanting to genuinely help someone. That seed, it will be nurtured when we continue to maintain those relationships. It's just a natural byproduct of how it is. And you'll notice that within other things within your life, you know. And so when I'm looking at all of these things, when we're looking at the farm, and we're looking at, you know, how it is, you know, when a baby is sown, you know, you also, you know, that genuinely if the pregnancy is healthy, you know, 9 months later there is a child that will be birthed. And so when we're looking at the cycles and we're looking at how things are, I think that can help us relax a bit and enjoy the process, knowing that regardless, if we're staying consistent, if we're doing the right things, if we're continuing to nurture and we're sowing and we're not, you know, planting before people are ready, but even before the soil is ready. You know, there's timing and seasons to everything, but the harvest is well worth it.
Love it, love it, love it. It's so fun. You said something that just made me remember someone that I have to follow up from yesterday. There's a woman in my life, and she's a long-term relationship. I used to work with her. We had a tremendous professional respect developed into a friendship. We've stayed in touch for years, and she said, Robin, this networking profession is just not a fit for me. And every time I go into the state she lives, I call her up, we visit, we have a wonderful heart connection. And just the other day she said, Robin, I have this friend in my life who's looking for a networking business. And I'm just not, it's not for me, but I want to connect you two if that's okay, because she really wants to do it right. She wants to do it professionally, and I would love you guys to connect. And so you just don't know where those referrals are going to come from if we treat people with respect. If I ever tried to convert this person or convince her to do yet another thing in this profession after she told me she doesn't want to, not a good thing to do. That's not respectful. But what I did was I've honored her, and then she gave me an off-the-charts amazing referral. So you just don't know when those things are going to come through.
Yep, and that's the power of sowing good seeds. You know, at the end of the day, that is the power of sowing good seeds, because now she respects you, and when she finds someone who's looking for something immediately, Robin, you know, and those of us who've done this well have all had someone who's referred people to us, and when someone trusts you enough and you've treated them well enough to say, you know what, I'm going to refer you somebody, that's the ultimate honor. That's the ultimate honor, so I love it.
Love it. So now we're coming in for a landing here, and what we want to do is talk about this time of year, because there are those 90-day cycles in our business. And this particular time of year, you may be seeing this at a different time of year, but the last quarter of the year, September through November, actually, really, is one of the greatest harvests in our profession ever. And if we really take advantage and leverage our time and put a little extra in now, it will come back exponentially, because something happens to people's mindsets during the summer. Whether they go away on vacation or not, it seems like they go on vacation. And you know, they just aren't as serious about doing business because there's too many other things to do. But once the kids are back at school, once the lighting changes, once it starts getting a little cooler and the days are a little shorter, people start thinking more about business and focusing more about what's important and how do I want to end my year, because how we end our year is how we start our year. So this particular quarter of the year is the most poignant in our profession. And if you want to take advantage of it, I highly recommend and invite you to put a little extra in. Maybe you do 2 a day, maybe you're going to do 4 or 5 a day. You know, I have a log that I don't have it right here because I actually cleaned my desk. That is my log sheet of how many people I talk to new a day, and I put notes there, and then it's really easy for me to see who I need to follow up with. But it's powerful what's going on, and if I ever feel stuck, I just go to my log sheet and I know exactly who to talk to. But this time of year is magical. And what it'll do is by November, the harvest will be so abundant and so wonderful that you get to just have a fabulous holiday.
That's big. That's big. I was just about to talk about the holiday, because that's what so many people start thinking about. You know, they start thinking about the new year and wanting to reinvent themselves. And so you're exactly right, Robin. So this is the time to really, really, really start pushing, regardless of what business that you're in. Go out there and give it your all. And one of the things that I like to ask myself is, did I give this my best? And I do this in every single thing. And if you can answer honestly that you're kind of, you know, a little bit, you know, or that you could have done more, then this is the time to go all out and give it your all. You will reap the harvest that we're talking about. That'll be well worth it. You want to do that.
Yeah, so we are thrilled to be with you, and actually next week we do have Andrea Waltz from Go For No. Whenever you get to see these hangouts, we appreciate it. We've got all kinds of other things as we keep alluding to, and soon you're going to see some things that we get to share with you. But we just want you to know how much we appreciate you for taking the time to invest in yourself, to really continue to learn. And we invite you to take what works and let go of the rest. You know, if there's some things here that make sense for you, integrate them. If there's things that don't, you know, don't do it. So, Monty, you want to close it up?
Absolutely, absolutely. So again, just to echo Robin, thank you for being here and for continuing to support us and allowing us to be of service to you. That's really, our great joy. We love being here every Thursday to share with all of you what works and what's worked for us and like she was saying, find that which works for you, but guarantee you will find something in what we share that will be a benefit to you. So you want to make sure that you're inviting people to go over to Wise Women Weekly presented by Enlighten Networking and our Facebook group. We would love to have you join us there. It's where you can stay up to date on all the things that we're doing. You'll learn about the latest episodes and all the things that are happening. So you want to make sure that you're plugged in there. And also make sure you're staying tuned because Robin and I still have some pretty cool things that we're going to be sharing and bringing to all of you. And so until then, we will see you all next week. Make sure you share this with a friend, share this with your downline, with your organization, and let them know that there is training here that they can come and get that will benefit them in their business. So we welcome all of you. So thank you, and we'll see you all next Thursday at 2 p.m. Pacific and 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Happy anniversary!
Thank you.